Call to order the Belville Planning Board meeting, regular meeting for October the 5th, 2021. Let's now stand and pledge allegiance to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Williams, do we need to excuse anyone from the meeting tonight? That's why I was asking. I didn't know if you was with us.
I can show you.
Okay, that's okay. I don't know if we can hear her. Good evening, Ms. Page.
Good evening.
There we go.
Oh, there she is.
Can you hear me?
So you're officially accounted for.
Oh, thank you.
You're
Official.
That's just what I wanted,
There you go. Thanks for joining us tonight.
of course.
Let's see. So, about everyone. So our next item of business is approval of the agenda. Corrections or adjustments on the agenda.
I'd like to ask if you so desire construction updates on the 70.
Okay. Construction.
Yes.
Okay.
Construction.
Request for construction update we added under new business is item D. Okay, with the board, entertain a motion to approve.
So move. Second.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, next item of business is the approval of the minutes from our September 14th, 2021 regular meeting. Back for review. Any corrections to the minutes? Hearing none, I entertain a motion to approve as presented. Second. Second, all those in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Our next item on the agenda is presentation from Mr. Nick Cannon. Transportation demand. For Washington Urban Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. Welcome, sir.
Hello, thank you for having me. Good to be here today.
Well, the second one is
Oh, it's one. Washington printed on the agenda. Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yes.
She brought that before, sorry.
All right, well, thank you for having me. My name is Nick Cannon. I am the Transportation Demand Management or TDM Coordinator for the Wilmington Urban Area Metropolitan Planning Organization. If you're not familiar with the WMPO, we are a federally mandated organization based off the population and size of the region, and we assist our member jurisdictions in their long-range transportation planning efforts, of which the town of Belville is one. So I presented on this short-range transportation management plan to the commissioners meeting 2 weeks ago, and I was invited to come back and present to you all as the planning board today. So this plan was adopted by the WMPO board in April and will guide Go Coast TDM initiatives for the next 5 years. So I'm just gonna run through it. This is for informational purposes. This plan has been provided to town staff, and so if anyone here would like a hard copy, I'm happy to mail that to you, but if you have any questions, we can go to that at the end of the presentation or at a later date. Just contact me, but we would like to start. In this presentation, okay, in this presentation, I will go over the purpose of the plan, its development process, the strategies identified within the plan and scorecard, and then the plan implementation. First, the number one goal for this plan is to identify strategies that can mitigate traffic congestion in the WMPO area and diversify mode use. This is a short range plan, so the life of the plan is 5 years. All the strategies can take place in the next 5 years, and the overall goal is to reduce vehicle miles traveled by 10% over the next 5 years. I'll read the mission statement pretty quickly. It's to provide area residents with the resources and offer motivation to choose healthy, sustainable, and effective multimodal transportation options to reduce stress on the road network and increase alternative means of mobility. So as we are planning transportation projects years and years into the future, we're finding that it is not environmentally or economically sustainable, nor is it safe or healthy to just build more and more roads to accommodate more and more single occupancy vehicles. So while the average wait time right now might just be 10, 15, 20 minutes, as we build more and more roads to accommodate more cars, that's just going to get longer. And that's no good for quality of life, or for safety, or for public spaces. So we want to encourage and enable our residents to utilize other forms of transportation for efficiency, for economic vitality, for all the good that you can think of. To develop this plan, we first convened the Go Coast Committee and reviewed the TDM element in our long range plan, which is a federally mandated plan for the region that was adopted by our board in November. That plan update is called Capability Board 2045. We then reviewed the survey responses from the survey that was released for that plan, and then released our own survey for Cape Fear Change Initiative 2020. And these survey questions ask specific questions about how people get around now versus how they would like to get around in the future, specific questions about biking, walking, carpooling, public transportation. And then we had a public comment period and prioritized the strategies. This slide really quickly just shows some of the numbers about how people get around now. What they're saying is that they mostly use their single occupancy vehicle. They would like to use alternative transportation much more than they do now into the future. So you can take a look at that in more detail on your own time. But generally, more people would like to use alternative transportation a whole lot more than they currently do. I have a slide for each of these, but there were 7 strategies that were outlined for this plan as viable opportunities to decrease traffic congestion and diversify mode use over the next 5 years. So each of these strategies does cater more towards an urbanized area. So while maybe some areas of Brunswick County couldn't utilize or implement these strategies, the municipalities within our WMPO planning boundary, we believe that they can. And each of these could be a focus of leadership of boards such as yourself over the next 5 years. First, we have alternative work schedules. This is a variety of scheduling options that include telecommuting, flex time, compressed work weeks, and staggered shifts. The benefits of this strategy are that it reduces commuting trips and mitigates traffic on roadways, specifically during peak traffic hours. So if you're a major employer, then you would offer 1/3 of your employees to come in at 7, leave at 4, to avoid traffic during peak commuting hours. Another 1/3 to work the traditional 8 to 5, and then another 1/3 to work 9 to 6. And that also has other benefits like retention, allowing people to focus on family and other priorities in their life. But this strategy can be applied through driven education, outreach and promotion to our area employees, as well as residents who advocate for themselves to utilize an alternative work schedule. And we can assist area employers in the development of their alternative work schedule policies if they wish for that help. So far, the city of Wilmington is the only member jurisdiction to show interest in a bike share program, but a bike share program is a service in which bikes are made available for rent on a short-term basis more so for short 2-mile or less trips, point A to point B. Probably seen these if you visited a large city, really anytime in the past 10 years. They've become very, very popular in the past decade. The benefits of the bike share program is that it reduces the need for a single occupancy vehicle, specifically for short trips. It's healthy, environmentally friendly, adds character to the city, and is very popular amongst tourists. This strategy can be first implemented in the city of Wilmington. That is something that leadership will want to pursue here pretty quickly. And if it is successful in the city of Wilmington, we can assist any member jurisdiction. Carpooling and gamepooling creates opportunities for people to share vehicles when traveling to and from nearby locations. Benefits for this, that reduces traffic, it reduces parking, and this strategy can be applied through marketing Share the Ride at Sea, which is a platform that's provided to us from our partners at NCDOT. Share the Ride at Sea is a platform that matches potential carpool and vanpool buddies to share rides when they're going to work, to appointments, to school, what have you. We can also promote our parking ride lots and our wave pool opportunities with our major area employers. Consulting for telecommuting is a brand new strategy that is not done really in much of North Carolina, but this is a service that will be offered by Go Coast to assist employers in developing their own telecommuting policies and programs. So COVID-19 has shown us that telecommuting is very, very viable for many employees throughout the region. So this is free to businesses with no obligation, and if a employer wishes to allow or permit their employees to continue to telecommute after the COVID-19 pandemic passes, that this can be a major strategy in reducing traffic and the stress on our road network. But this is something that we can and are happy to assist our area employers in developing for themselves to offer to their employees. Fostering a bicycle and pedestrian friendly culture is the #1 strategy that was identified in this plan. And this strategy increases safety for bicyclists and pedestrians. It gives authority to biking and walking as legitimate modes of transportation. It will reduce injuries and fatalities, and promote culture in public spaces, provide opportunity for education, and kind of just change the culture of how we perceive biking. It's not very likely that in the next 5 years, everyone's going to abandon their own single occupancy vehicle and just take the bus or bike or walk, but changing the culture for a majority of drivers to respect and understand the utilization of other forms of transportation is a major goal of this plan, and that's something that is even more so a major goal of this strategy. So this strategy can be applied through participating in programs like the Looker, Watch and See, Vision Zero, and holding successful bicycle-oriented events, such as we are hosting our first, our inaugural Brunswick Heritage Riverside Ride this October, on October 23rd. I would say come ahead and join us and sign up, but we've reached capacity. Much to our surprise, the capacity for this ride, since it is the first of its kind, or the first of this ride, and since, as you can see on this map, it does travel along some main corridors and some fast-moving corridors. The advice of the law enforcement who will be providing traffic support on this ride advised us for the first time to cap it at 100 participants. And we reached 100 participants yesterday, so that was pretty exciting. But this ride, I was asked to touch specifically on this ride right after speaking about fostering the bicycle pedestrian culture. You may have heard of the annual. Sorry, I'm planning so many events in October. My mind's jumbled. The annual River to Sea bike ride that takes place in Wilmington, downtown Wilmington, to Ricefield Beach and back. So this ride is kind of a model after that. You can see on the map that it will start in Phoenix Park in Nebraska, come down to Belville, and then travel back. But however, this ride does focus on some more cultural features of Brunswick County and the Bella Geechee descendants of this area, and it does focus on a lot of the cultural aspect and locations that are located along this route. But we're very, very excited. So just to speak to that strategy already coming into effect, we're very, very excited for this, and Hope that it is something that we can continue to partner with, our partners on this side of the river for years to come. And I'm happy to answer any questions about this right specifically, they're now at the end of the presentation. Cool. TDM focused collaboration is a strategy that just improves collaboration among WMPO staff and our member jurisdiction staff, specifically in development review. So this strategy will assist member jurisdictions in developing their own TDM oriented ordinances, reviewing development to provide advice on increased alternative transportation infrastructure and programs. Basically, when there is opportunity to improve upon what is taking place and keeping in mind alternative transportation, that's what the strategy aims to do. This can actually increase the strategies in this plan that are applied and can increase application for more multimodal infrastructure. Yeah. Sorry. Personalized commuter plans are catered plans to provide recommended ways for individuals to utilize alternative transportation when it is desired and feasible for themselves. So if an individual says, I want to try to take the bus one day a week to work, or I want to walk with or bike with my child to school a few days a week, or just bike to the gym, whatever have you. If people are interested in getting from point A to point B by means other than a single occupancy vehicle, we can help cater that route and that plan for them. So with this strategy, it introduces individuals to our other TDM strategies, alternative transportation options and resources that we have in the region, and it promotes bicycle pedestrian infrastructure in our transit routes. So this service can be offered to anyone living or working in the WPO area. The main takeaway from today's presentation is that although we are very proud of this plan and it will drive Gold Coast initiatives for the next 5 years, this is not an exhaustive list of everything or anything that can be done when it comes to TDM oriented services and alternative transportation. If there's anything else that municipalities such as Belville would like to see by the way of mitigating traffic, reducing traffic congestion, increasing how many people are walking, biking, whatever that may look like for you all as leaders or as staff, we are here to help with that. So that could be increased information and marketing to your residents, assisting in the development of ordinances or conditions, or even just helping with comprehensive plans and programs. I'll go over these next slides fairly quickly, but there's a scorecard within the plan, and each strategy was put into one of two categories: primary priority or secondary priority, and they were scored off the considerations of ease of implementation, cost, existing conditions, demand, their impact on traffic, and their impact on vehicle miles traveled. And you can see which strategy fits in each category. So how do we actually implement this plan? What are we going to do to see that these strategies, that we have action taken on these strategies? First, this was already adopted by the WMPO board. I'm now presenting this to our member jurisdictions to make sure that everyone is aware of this plan as a resource and as an initiative. Then we adhere to these strategy work plans. These work plans provide measurable and actionable goals and items to see that we are measuring the success of each of these strategies. And that provides tangible, actionable items from the categories of marketing and outreach to establishing and maintaining relationships with our partners like data, hosting events, and then we will have a regular review by WMPO staff, the TDM coordinator, myself, and our advisory committee. And I know this was a lot to put in one presentation, but we are very, very excited for this plan. We hope that we can see that some of these strategies are very successful over the next 5 years. We do believe that we will need some partnership from all of our member jurisdictions, not just from our host agency, the city of Wilmington. But I'm happy to answer any questions or take any comments.
I have a question. I think tomorrow is like the school day.
Okay.
Have you seen that there's been a lot of participation?
No, I haven't seen too much of that. the past few years, I think that bike to school day has landed, which is different than bike to work day and bike to work week in May. But some of these days have landed right around major storms or pandemics. So I think that we may have lost a little bit of our momentum that we had with some of these events, but this is that is just one of many things that can be done and implemented through the GoFest program. So if there is a municipality like Belville who wants assistance in marketing or some type of event, we are more than happy to assist with that. And maybe it being tomorrow is a little bit last minute, but as far as just social media or whatever that may be, we're happy to promote that. But definitely in past years, we have assisted a few individual schools from the county and then White School Beach in helping out with the bike to work or bike to school day and walk to school day. But yes, although there are no plans for it tomorrow, definitely on the table for future days.
Okay, I think that'd be something great we could do maybe next year after we do multi-use back on this side complete.
Absolutely, and then Leland as well. They Carolina Beach as well. We have a pot of money set aside for alternative transportation projects and Belville and Leland and Carolina Beach have utilized some of this money in the past years for multi-use paths, which is excellent. But yeah, we're down for sure.
And how soon do you think we would see like the bike share program?
So there is there's a wide variety of business models from bike share and micromobility vendors. So whether that's scooter share or bike share. And it's kind of tricky. What we have found is that it's a little bit tricky for an area of our population to be implemented because whatever the business model might be about it being completely funded by the municipality, being completely funded by users, or a hybrid with sponsors from major employers or a healthcare system. The market that we're in of the city of Wilmington, about 120,000 people is just pretty tricky. So it really depends on the responses that we receive from the RFP. I don't think that it's very popular or recommended for a bike share program to start in winter. So if that is pursued starting in the next couple of months, I think the soonest, if everything goes well, would be spring, April, May.
We really enjoyed doing that in DC. My kids lived in DC for a while, and it was just nice to get on one, go to see a museum, you can just pick up another bus.
Exactly, yeah, you can take it back with you or leave it. It can be, if it's done wise, smart and properly, it can be very, very convenient.
And if it's really affordable, you know, it doesn't.
But you're welcome to stay updated on city Wilmington Council and provide updates to staff as well, or where we are in that process for bike share.
I just returned from Italy and home, watching the traffic, the bikers, buses, electric scooters, trains, everything using the same street at great speeds. And I was just amazed.
Yeah.
Because those bikers are fearless. They don't cut in and out of traffic. I was amazed.
Yeah.
It can work. I've seen it in hand.
It can work,
Yes,
yeah,
it can.
yeah, it can work more in very densely populated areas like New York City.
And they have traffic lights there, just a suggestion anywhere,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's crazy.
Right, yeah.
Yeah, I was amazed.
But yeah, but that's the goal as, and this was mentioned whenever I presented to the commissioners, but you all, Belville and Nebraska, and even remember, are in a really good spot that you're not built up yet. So, if you want a light rail or a trolley or a streetcar, then it's not, you're not past the point to have that done yet. As you build up and build out, a lot of these strategies, and not just programmatically, the infrastructure can be done to get ahead of the curve that we're kind of in Wilmington and that in the New Hanover County area we're trying to catch up on.
Well, way to go, Bill. Sure you did.
Great.
Well, obviously it can be done.
It can be done. I did videos because I just said it was, when my mouth wide open, or walking in the street, I mean,
Yeah, and it's a cultural thing as well. It's a whole perfect marriage of a lot
but
of
that's
things.
what you gotta get to, the culture. I think
Yes,
that's part of your
absolutely,
process.
definitely. Definitely is. Great,
Any other questions or comments from Mr. Chairman?
Great job.
appreciate it. But if you do have anything that comes up later, as you mentioned, with my contact information, please don't hesitate to reach out. See if we're whatever you need.
Will do. Thank you, sir.
Thank y'all, have a great evening.
Yes, thank you, Sharon. All right, next item of business, on the agenda is old business discussion on administrative minor modification. I think Mr. Capadona is joining us virtually.
I am.
It is.
Can you all hear me on here, or do I need to call in?
Hearing that.
Okay. So yeah, sorry, I can't be there in person. I wasn't feeling very well the past couple days, so doing this virtually. I hope this is going to be our last discussion on the minor modifications and be ready for the public hearing next month.
You're getting a thumbs up from the board.
So there are just a couple changes from last month. In your packet, you'll have the colorful version showing all the edits we've made over the months, with the newest revisions being in green. And then there's also a clean version behind that that shows all the finalized edits, which is a little bit easier to digest and see what the final product is. So just to mention it, there were 2 items that were discussed at the last meeting as necessary follow-ups. The first one being the reorganization of the table that we put together for the minor adjustments that are allowed and the percentages allowed and which board makes that decision, etc. Making that table more user-friendly and easier to follow. So we'll look at that in just a couple minutes. And the other item to follow up on was adding additional language regarding board decisions on these minor adjustments because they require an evidentiary hearing, aka a quasi-judicial decision, and that's because it's a board decision. So an evidentiary hearing is required for that decision, and I'll take you through that new language as well. So I think the best thing to do is just to flip to the actual edits. If you go Article 9, the new stuff is on page 31 of 36, and it will be in green. Is everybody there?
Yeah, we're on page 31.
So, like I said, the new language is in green. What this said before was that a person could apply for a minor adjustment to the development and zoning district standards of this ordinance as described in this section. And then it went on to the next page, which it's worth looking at that briefly to remind ourselves what we had prior to what I'm proposing tonight. The next page, page 32, shows the full table that we're trying to make more user-friendly. And it had the note at the bottom, the note 1, that referred to how, depending on which type of development it was, determine what board made the decision. And we all agreed that that was not a very user-friendly table. Kind of had to go back and forth to figure out what was allowed and what was going on. So flipping back up to page 31, what I'm showing as a hopeful improvement to that is the person may apply for the minor adjustment as described in this section. The following standards may be modified, and it's this number 1 through 11 here. Those are the same items that are listed in that table on the next page. Looks like a lot shorter list when you condense it into a not complicated table like on the next page. And so those following standards may be modified, number 1 through 11, and then right below number 11, such standards may be modified according to the following table. And this is a condensed version of what used to be the expanded table on the next page. And basically just describes what type of development it is, and that determines who the applicable approval authority is in the middle column. And then just given a straightforward adjustment allowed that applies to all 11 of those standards listed above. We had originally developed that expanded table on the next page to possibly give different percentages for all these items. But since we stuck with, for the most part, keeping them all the same, the only one that was different was number of parking spaces, and that just had to do with trying to have that calculation come out to a whole number. Rather than 15% and 30%, it was 16% and 32%. So not a strong reason to keep that, just for the purposes of having an expanded table. So thought it made it a lot simpler to get rid of the 16 and 32%, just have everything be 15 and 30%, and condense it into this table. And that gives all the same information. So listing those 1 through 11 standards and providing that new condensed table gives all the same information that was in that expanded, somewhat complicated table on the next page. So hopefully you will see that as an improvement. I think it's a lot easier to understand and read. And then in addition to that, knocking out the second item that I mentioned, that was an update to the last meeting. The note at the bottom of this table addresses the evidentiary hearings I had mentioned. Like I comment, this note is heavily based on the note that was in the town of Cary's ordinance, and then modified a bit to match up with Belville's existing language. So it's mainly getting at the planning board, board of commissioners, and board of adjustment may approve these minor adjustments allowed under this section only if it finds, after conducting an evidentiary hearing, that the adjustment advances the goals and purposes of this ordinance. And that's pretty much coming straight from the town of Cary's language. And then I also added, is determined to have no impact on the health, safety, and welfare of abutting and nearby property owners. And like I commented, that phrase is coming from the exact existing language that's at the beginning of this section. So I thought it was good to go ahead and include here, so that's easy to find for when the board is making these decisions. And then lastly, and relieves practical difficulties in developing a site. And again, that's coming from the town of Cary's language. They cap that off in saying, in determining if practical difficulty exists, the factors set forth in section 972B3 regarding approval criteria for variances shall be considered. I thought about that a little bit. That might be worth pausing on. I considered not including that phrase and just ending the sentence with and relieves practical difficulties in developing a site, period. Because having this phrase about determining practical difficulty might be misinterpreted as being the same process as a variance, which is not the intent with this language or this section as a whole. We're specifically trying to set up minor adjustments, not any potential variance that could be requested in a variance application. So I think the ultimate reason I decided to include it was for a minor adjustment, it's relevant to consider the criteria from a variance. That's what this language says, is that it shall be considered. But it's not necessarily saying that all those criteria have to be met, just that they have to be thought of in making these decisions for minor adjustments. That covers all of the main changes from the last meeting. So maybe there's some questions specifically on that language I've added here in the note, or just in general for the new stuff I've added.
Jim, did you say that last part? It's a little weak.
That's everything I've added for since the last meeting. So just wondering if there are any questions on specifically this note that I just mentioned about the evidentiary hearing, or just in general with these new edits that I'm showing.
Question, comments?
I'll say it seems much more simple. So, straightforward. Good job. I don't think.
Jeff, I'm not seeing any acknowledgement, any comment changes, so I think we can move forward.
Okay. One last little note. I did realize in the number 1 through 11 that I list, I need to put parenthetically all the section references that were in the old expanded table, the rightmost column. So I've made that note. I'm going to add all those section references.
Made reference in item number 11. Jeff, you still there?
Yes.
Okay. I said in item number 11 on the listing, talking about signs, space area, we referred to the section.
Yeah.
Go to 12, you're going to go back and add the sections to your other 10.
Yeah.
Okay. Just make that clear.
Got it.
Where are you taking us now for the document? Okay.
Yeah, I think the next step is to take this to a public hearing.
I thought there was something in the back of the document.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and ask, you made a section the very last year markup, so you purposely didn't include this. It's fine, why are you stating such? Is to confuse more?
Where are you talking?
The very last page.
Okay.
Yeah. On the markup, you wrote that I know, I had to do permitted encouragement yards, regarding accessory structures. Some stuff about nursing homes, is there a reason why you just kind of wanted to make sure we knew you purposely didn't include them?
That's all old comments from this document. And when there's not enough space to put it to the side, Microsoft Word will put it in the separate page. So long story short, that's stuff that we talked about several months ago.
Anyone else got any questions? I'm not seeing any questions from the board, so I guess we can move forward.
Let's move this to a public hearing. Pending the section reference updates to be made. This one.
All right, got a motion and a second to place this on public hearing for our next meeting. All those in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries, so we'll place it on the agenda and advertise for public hearing. Thank you, Mr. Capitone. Hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Is that all you had for us this evening?
Yes, sir.
You're free to go.
All right, thank you.
Good evening.
See ya.
Let's see, we'll move on to item 7, new business, discussion on the 2022 draft regular meeting calendar. That's amazing. Almost did not get it out. So there's a draft calendar in our packet. Our meeting is usually scheduled for the first Tuesday of each month. We'll take a look at that calendar. Staff has recommended a couple of months for us to look at, in particular this month of July and September, to possibly move those dates to a week later because of the 4th of July holiday and also Labor Day. Based on our experience from this past year, it seems like a lot of us had conflicts for the Labor Day weekend and they were not available and kind of move it. And unfortunately, it caused a conflict for me, so I wasn't here, but I understand a lot of folks are traveling on those days. And then also, I typically look at it too, some different dates. I would suggest the month of January. Instead of having it on the 4th, that we also move it to the 11th. As I like to say, that's my gift to the staff for the holidays, because I'm not sure when the town would recognize New Year's Eve holiday for staff, but it's possible to be that Monday. Is that correct? Or would it be Friday?
Friday.
Yeah. But regardless, that means they've got to work around, the Christmas holiday plus that holiday to try and push everything out. It can wait. So.
Also, I don't think it made it into your packet, but I had recommended that we not do it on election day.
Oh, yeah, we have. Moved it on election day as well, yeah.
The 15th day.
November.
November 15th.
Or we can move it up.
The first Tuesday is the first.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's, yeah,
It's good. First.
that's why I didn't catch it, because the blue block is on the second Tuesday. So it should be the first anyway. Because election day is the second day and the second Tuesday, in November, correct? Okay. So your draft should read November 1st, is that right? I mean,
Yeah, Halloween. That's fine.
is any other months?
So are we saying in July and September, which I agree with, I think we should move into the 12th of July, the 3rd of December. Are we saying to do that? Because I think we should.
Yeah.
Okay,
And then also January.
right.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm good with that.
So that would be the only months
No problem.
that would not be on the first Tuesday. January 11th, July the 12th, and September 13th.
Now we're gonna move it November up to the 1st.
Yes.
Yes. It should be the first.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yes.
That was an error. So, is there any other considerations we need to discuss? Okay. Then motion to approve. So. Motion and second, all those in favor, indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. So we got that taken care of. All right, so one more item, construction updates, recognize Ms. Weeks.
I don't want to.
Brief. What Sharon's passing out now is the construction schedule for the program. And we're anticipating materials for the project are gonna be delivered on the 14th, which is next Thursday. Barring we don't have any delays due to COVID. It should only take us until Thanksgiving to get this done. That would mean that the boat ramp itself would have to be closed until that time. There is a possibility that it could be open temporarily or intermittently, depending on what the conditions are. And let's just say they get to a certain point and then we have to wait a week for some materials. They may be able to put something with it for that little while. But worst case scenario, they would predict that it would be finished around the first or second week of December. So, looking forward to that. And then some of the materials that they would use are going to be going towards the non-motorized launch. So they'll have some stuff and they'll try to maximize on contractors like driving files and stuff like that. While he's there. So some of it will go towards that, but the main focus up front is the boat ramp. And then we'll start working on that. So that's the update that I have on that, and just to refresh your memory. The ramp itself is approximately 50 to 60 feet wide. It's a floating dock, and it has a 20-foot aluminum gangway. Have tide fleets and all that. And then the non-motorized launch will have a place for jet skis and low, small boats and skiffs, and kayaks, but not the larger. So keep your fingers crossed that everything goes as planned, the timeline goes as planned. And we'll try to let you know as soon as we can, if those materials are going to come in on time, because we would want to have a groundbreaking, which we would be calling a splash party with buckets of water, where we would actually throw water on the dock instead of using shoulders. So we would try to invite you guys to come out for that. So we'll send you a water on there.
That's great.
This has been a long time coming. Yes, it has. Lord, I hope we can hurry up and get it going.
So the pile driving event, whenever that takes place, I'm assuming will be during daylight hours.
Yeah. Quite a bit of noise in elementary school.
Was school be in session then? Because I know I can hear the pile driving out in the river at night.
Yes.
And it can be very loud at times, so I was just curious.
For the boat ramp, I don't think it'll be very many. So it should be quick. And, you know, there's a lot of concrete, old concrete under that boat ramp that's been taken out, so they're gonna have to use the, you know, most forceful equipment out there to try to get the pipe.
There's not,
It is what it is.
yeah, there's not many residents. It's close.
Not too many houses.
There's a few there, next to the park,
Yeah, anything.
yeah. Probably it's Sutton's, closest. That would be in the wood line, cross water on the other side of the school, you know.
Okay, you don't have any questions on that, we're not move on, but if you think that,
It appears we had a very successful turnout in the fall festival at the park over the weekend. Do you have any idea of the numbers?
we estimate that it would probably, let's say, stream between 2,000 to 3,000. But we're not sure, because we didn't have a counter, and that's something that we have been talking about, is sometimes we have to count people. They, Jones was there. There's a great lot of people there.
The mayor was getting the workout directly drive. Because when I came through and saw him, he was dragging. Because yeah, it was hot and the traffic was backed up in both directions, and the folks, you know, were crossing, coming and going to the activities. So he had his hands full.
All across the state, they said that every festival they had was not a huge turnout.
So I guess the planning for next year, he's gonna need some help with traffic control.
Yeah.
Because the issue is that he was doing the best he could at that point, but folks were coming out of the bus parking lot of Belville School, trying to come out into traffic as well.
It was back up with that school
Yeah.
there for a while.
Yeah, and so. Yeah.
That's when I did a U, we went out the other way. Walmart, really come.
Looks like everyone had a great time, but
They
that's the main thing, and they wouldn't get hurt, so.
Paints and pumpkins. and stuff like that. I didn't get a chance to get it. I know our vendors sold out.
They sold out on
Try to next time.
It's a good sign.
Yeah, it's awesome.
So we're gonna have a movie night on the 23rd, just in case you're interested in seeing Beetlejuice, so we'll be sending out some information on that.
Okay.
So. We try to move that. And the next day, I think Nick might mention it in his presentation, maybe he didn't. The National Park Service is gonna send some representatives here, and we're gonna give them a tour of the Navassa Park, Howard Park, and some other locations that are involved with that WG Heritage Corridor. So we'll spend some time. They're giving us 5 hours that Sunday to show them everything. So we'll be doing that. Hopefully we will.
Is that in October?
Yes, it'll be October 24th. We generate some revenue from that somehow. And moving on to our other construction, I have 2 more. One is an update on the apartments right down the street, which would be where the old Watson property was, the 29 acres. They are ready to turn in their application. They said they were gonna have it to us last week, but they had to go back and tweak something. And I haven't gotten it yet, but I feel like we get it by Friday. So, it'll be moving and probably we'll be seeing something by December for sure. So we'll have a lot of construction going on in December. And then, the one right behind me.
Down 33, and the line where y'all radio tower.
You know, where all the traffic's coming.
So that one was by right. Because they already, will have rights on it. The other one that requires a special use permit, which is on pool roads, if they were to turn in an application. They would be asking for probably a special meeting to come before you in November. And so I was wondering what your schedule might be around November 30th. And Thanksgiving would be probably around November 25th. November 30th would be the Tuesday. Last Tuesday of that month. And I was wondering if anybody would be out of town during that time, because that would be a quasi judicial hearing. We would have the application.
Not sure. Should be here.
That's when they think they would be ready to present. And then, if that worked out, then they would go to the commissioner sometime in December, probably not at the regular meeting, because that would be a swearing-in ceremony, probably a special meeting for them as well. And then if that happened, it would be foreseeable that they would be in construction late January or February. That's some exciting stuff.
Yeah, as of right now, I should be doing 30.
As far as that helps.
He was just saying he would be here for
Okay,
the 30.
and if we can accelerate it, and get it away from Thanksgiving dates at all, we will. But, they're just projecting right now. But if they could, potentially get everything wrapped up before that. You asking about the board adjustment for the calendar? Sometime before December 31st.
Pretty calendar for the board.
It could be the same night as another meeting, so they won't have to come twice.
Did everything on the agenda for the month? Anybody got anything else? Right. Got a motion to adjourn right here.
Second.
A second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Saying aye.